Today we're going to read the last chapter, chapter 10 in Midnight on the Moon. This chapter is called Earth Life. Your goal today is to write a summary of this chapter. What's a summary? Yeah, a summary is the most important thing that happens. So while I'm reading, I want you to think about what the most important part of chapter 10 is. Earth Life. The midnight woods woke up. A breeze rustled the leaves. An owl hooted. The sounds were soft, but very alive. Jack opened his eyes. He pushed his glasses into place. He smiled. Morgan was still with them. He could see her in the moonlight. Her long white hair was shining. Morgan, can you and the treehouse stay here? Said Annie. In Frog Creek? No, I must leave again, I'm afraid, said Morgan. I've been gone from Camelot for a long time. She handed Jack his backpack, and she brushed his cheek. Her hand felt cool and soft. A bit of moon dust is still on you, she said. Thank you, Jack, for your great love of knowledge. You're welcome, said Jack. Morgan tugged on one of Annie's braids. And thank you, Annie, for your belief in the impossible. You're welcome, said Annie. Go home now, said Morgan. Jack smiled. Home was Earth, that bright, colorful world where everything was alive and always changing. Bye, Morgan, said Annie. She started out of the treehouse. Jack looked back at Morgan. Will you come back soon? He said. Anything can happen, said Morgan. The universe is filled with wonders. Isn't it, Jack? He smiled and nodded. Go now, Morgan said softly. Jack followed Annie down the rope ladder. He stepped onto the ground. The wind started to blow. The tree started to shake. A loud roar filled Jack's ears. He squeezed his eyes shut and covered his ears. Then everything was silent and still. Jack opened his eyes. The ladder was gone. He looked through the leaves and branches of the giant oak tree. Where the treehouse had been was only moonlight now. Bye, Morgan, he whispered sadly. Bye, Peanut, said Annie. Jack and Annie stared at the top of the tree for a long moment. Ready, said Annie. Jack nodded. They started for home. The midnight air felt cool and moist. It was filled with soft sounds of earth life. Jack and Annie left the Frog Creek woods. They started down their street. Annie glanced up at the sky. The moon looks really far away, doesn't it? It did, Jack thought. It was. I wonder how the moon man can be up there all alone, said Annie. What do you mean, said Jack. I mean, who helps him put on his spacesuit, said Annie. And who helps him get up when he falls down? And who is he, said Jack. Who do you think he was, said Annie. He must be a scientist or an astronaut from Earth, said Jack. No, I think he was an alien, said Annie. From another galaxy. Jack scoffed. What makes you say that? I just feel it, said Annie. Wrong, said Jack. There's no proof that aliens exist. Maybe not now, said Annie, but don't forget, we were in the future. Oh, brother, said Jack. They crossed their yard and climbed up their back steps. Annie tiptoed inside of the house. Jack followed her. Before he shut the door, he glanced up at the moon. Was Annie right? He wondered. Could the moon man have been from another galaxy? Morgan's words came back to him. The universe is filled with wonders, isn't it, Jack? Good night, Moon Man, whispered Jack. Then he closed the door. And that is the end, you guys, of the Midnight on the Moon book. So I want you to think about what your summary is of this chapter. Where did Jack and Andy end up? They're finally back home. Yeah, they made it back home. That's important to remember. We want to glue that part in our brain because if we don't remember that, we're going to be really confused when we start the next book. I might be thinking they're still up on the moon. Also, what happened to the treehouse? Is it there anymore? No, you guys, the treehouse disappeared again. So that might be another thing that we want to remember and write in our summary about today, okay? Once you have your summary in your brain, you can go ahead and keep watching so we can show you what we expect you to do for writing today.